Hey, what's up guys? Hardleg Joe here, the YGOPro profile of the Cystron Advantage deck. I'm just going to go through everything in here, and I'll explain how it works, and a heads up beforehand, my pronunciations are going to be terrible. So we have 3 Cystron Sulfurnir, 1 Cystron Rosenix, 3 Cystron Thivestern, 3 Cystron Smiger, 1 Steam Synchro, 2 Spell Strikers, 2 Cystron Rion, 3 Cystron Praestortle, 3 Cystron Citri, and 1 Cystron Chron. For our spells, we've got 3 Ties of the Brethren, 3 Terraforming, 2 Twin Twister, 3 Supply Squad, and 3 Starlight Junction. For our traps, 1 Jar of Avarice, and 3 Crystron Impact. For our extra deck, we're playing 1 each of Star Eater, Stardust Warrior, Crystron Glingander, Crystron Phoenix, Trishula, Dragon of the Ice Barrier, Vermilion Dragon Mech, Karakuri Steel Shogun Model 00X Burrito, Dark Strike Fighter, Black Rose Moonlight Dragon, Powered Insectatron, Crystron Amatrix, Ally of Justice Catastor, and 3 of the Crystron Quandax. The side deck I'll go over in a moment. So this is an advantage deck, and what that means is that it wins via card advantage. What you're trying to do is remove all the cards from your opponent's hand, field, and graveyard so that they can't make any strong plays against you. The key component to this is Starlight Junction. This has 2 effects. The first one's not important for this deck at all. The main reason we play it is because if you special summon a Synchro monster from your extra deck during your opponent's turn, you can target 1 card on the field and shuffle it into the deck, and that's a once per turn effect. And the Cystrons are all about Synchro summoning during your opponent's turn. So if you have Starlight Junction out, every turn your opponent makes a play, you Synchro summon, send something back to the deck, and you're just shutting them down. You're stopping their normal summon, you're stopping whatever they set. And of course, the Synchros themselves, a lot of them have trigger effects. When they're summoned, you can banish cards, either spells, traps. In the case of Trishula, you're banishing 3 cards. As for the Cystrons, how they work is all the non-tuners, except for this big guy over here, they all have the same effect that you can destroy 1 face-up card you control to special summon a Synchron tuner from your deck. Turn you use this effect, you can't summon anything from the extra deck except for machine-type Synchro monsters, which limits you a bunch, but again, you're not really going to be Synchro summoning all that much on your turn. It's more about setting up for your opponent's turn. All the tuners, meanwhile, have the same effect that during your opponent's main or battle phase, you can target a non-tuner from somewhere, special summon it, and then immediately Synchro summon a machine monster using the tuner and whatever you grabbed. Citri is the one we use the most often because it grabs a monster from the graveyard, so obviously if you're blowing up one of these to grab Citri, then during your opponent's turn you can grab this back out of the graveyard and Synchro summon. When you do, this and the card you used are both banished. This comes to our next most popular tuner, Rion. He lets you grab a monster that's banished, and then Synchro summon with it, but both the cards are sent back to the deck. So together, if you can get both of these out, they make for a good combo. You could Synchro with this, cards banished, and then you can grab that same card with Rion and Synchro again. We only play 2 of him because he's shuffled back into the deck, so every time you Synchro summon with him, you can then summon him back out next turn with another one of your Cystrons. Chron is the one we use the least amount. This one lets you grab from your hand, so it's only really good first turn or in certain situations like later on. Normally you don't really want this guy. Of course, when you use these, you can only Synchro summon machine-type monsters, which is a bit limiting. There's not a whole lot of really good machine-type monsters. The Cystrons themselves do have a couple. Amatrix is pretty neat because when it's summoned, you can move all your opponent's monsters into defense position, which means you can basically stop an attack because you can Synchro summon during the battle phase. Powered Insectatron is a good one. When this is Synchro summoned, it can't be destroyed by battle or card effects this turn, and you take no damage this turn. Dark Strike Fighter and Burrito are both just high attack, but they don't really have effects during your opponent's turn. And Vermilion Dragon, also pretty high attack, can't be used during your opponent's turn. We have a couple other level 9s, but these require special summoning conditions. This guy needs 2 tuners, and this guy needs a tuner Synchro and a non-tuner Synchro. So you're probably thinking, how do I summon out these non-machine type monsters like Moonlight Dragon? Well, that's where this guy comes in. This is the Crystron Synchro Tuner. It's level 4, which means you can make it pretty easily with Citri in this turtle guy, or you can use Chron with any of your level 3s, which is the only reason this guy is really useful. This card also has the effect that you can Synchro summon during your opponent's main or battle phase using this and cards on the field, but this one is not limited by type at all. So if you have this on the field along with any of your level 3s, which is what we play the most of, you can then immediately go into Black Rose Moonlight Dragon and bounce something back into their hand. Likewise, because this is a tuner, you can use this to go into your Crystron Phoenix that requires a tuner synchro and a non-tuner synchro, or even Stardust Charge Warrior that also requires a tuner synchro. The one Crystron that doesn't fit into these two categories is Sulfnir. This is an interesting card. If this is in your hand or graveyard, you can discard a Crystron except for itself, special summon this in defense position, and then destroy one card you control. Usually you want to destroy itself, because if it's destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon one Crystron monster from your deck in defense position, except itself. This is really good because it lets you fill up your graveyard with more monsters, gives you more of a toolbox. You can discard one of your level 3s to summon this, blow itself up, summon your level 2, and then blow up your level 2 to get your tuner. And then when your opponent goes to their turn, you have both a level 2, a level 3, and a level 5 in your graveyard, so you have access to several different levels of Synchro. In addition to all that, these non-tuner Crystrons have additional effects. You can banish them from the graveyard to do something, although you can't activate both their effects at the same turn, so if you blow this guy up to summon your tuner, you can't then also banish it to activate an effect. This guy, by the way, you can banish to add one of your Crystron spell traps from your deck to your hand, of which we're only playing the one. This guy you can banish in order to add any Crystron from your deck to your hand. This is usually a good target. This guy can banish to create a level 1 token on the field, not the most important, which is why we only play one of them. And this guy you can banish in order to special summon a Crystron from your hand, which can be really good for putting several tuners on your field at once, or just summoning this guy in attack position, because when he summons himself, he's in defense position, and at 2000 beat stick, not too bad, not too bad. The only non-Crystron monsters we're playing are Spell Striker. This is just a neat little level 3, because a lot of our monsters rely on going into level 3s, especially if you want to make Black Rose Moonlight Dragon. You can special summon him by banishing any spell card from your graveyard, and we have a lot of spell cards that we go through really quickly, especially if Ties of the Brethren or Terraforming. You can get this guy out, and just putting him on the field when you know you're going to be able to make this, or if you have Steam Synchron on the field, it's going to be able to let you make some more plays that you wouldn't normally be able to make. Steam Synchron, by the way, just a one-of that we're playing. This is during your opponent's main phase, you can Synchro Summon using face-up monsters you control. Again, this sort of fits the theme of Synchro Summoning during your opponent's turn, but it only uses monsters you control, and it's only during the main phase, not the battle phase. But it's not locked by any sort of archetype. He's mostly here just to use with Ties of the Brethren. If you're unfamiliar with this, it's pay 2,000 life points, target one level 4 or lower monster you control, special summon from your deck 2 monsters with the same type and attribute and level, but with different names. So all the Crystrons are machine types and water attribute, as is Steam Synchron, and we're playing a whole bunch of level 3s, both this tuner and these 2 non-tuners. So Ties of the Brethren has a lot of targets in here. If you target any one of these, you could summon out either both tuners or a tuner and a non-tuner. This is important because this lets you on the first turn set up for Trishula. If you can get Steam Synchron and 2 non-tuners on the field, then during your opponent's turn you're going to be able to summon this. This will banish cards from your opponent's hand, field, and graveyard. And if you have Starlight Junction, you're going to be able to send a card back to the deck as well. So eliminating 4 cards, very useful. And of course these will be in the graveyard, so next turn you're going to be able to search if you don't have any other resources. Alternatively, if you want to summon out Steam Synchron with Rion, the tuner, and a non-tuner, you can make the big boss monster for Crystrons. When this is Synchro summoned, you can target monsters your opponent controls or in their graveyard up to the number of Synchro materials used, and banish them. And then when this card is destroyed, you can target a banished monster except this card, and special summon it to your side of the field. So Trishula can be really good if you're not really sure what your opponent's playing. If they're playing a graveyard heavy deck, if they're doing like Light Sworns or something that mills and they're trying to get a lot of cards in the graveyard, this can be really good because it'll hit field or graveyard. And then of course if you banish something really powerful, when they get rid of this, you can special summon it back out again. Other than that, the only really important main deck card to mention is Cystron Impact. This is target one banished Cystron monster, special summon it, and if you do, your opponent controls any face-up monsters, their defense becomes 0. Also during either player's turn, except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, if a card or effect targets a Cystron monster, you can banish this card to negate that effect. So it's a little bit of protection, it's good discard fodder for Sulfnir if you really need something. More importantly, it lets you get your banished cards back. You're using Citri a lot, and if you recall, when it Synchro summons, the cards are banished. You can then use this to either summon Citri back and Synchro again, although not on the same turn, you can't use this effect twice per turn. But you can use it the next turn, or you could just use it to get one of your non-tuners out of the graveyard, blow it up to grab another tuner that you want, and then maybe search again. Very useful. The rest of this is just sort of like, well, we've got Twin Twisters just as our back row removal because we need some cards in the graveyard, so this is good. We only play 2 of because we've got We've got back row removal in the form of Crystron Phoenix. I didn't mention this. This is probably one of the better cards, especially against pendulums. When it's synchro summoned, you can banish all spell and trap cards your opponent controls and in their graveyard. So this shuts down a whole lot of decks. If they build their scales and then you can synchro summon out this, then you're just wiping everything. And if they have anything in the graveyard they thought they could activate, well, that's gone too. Of course, this is a tuner synchro and a non-tuner synchro, so it's a little bit more difficult to get out. That's why we play the Twin Twisters. And we're just playing Supply Squad, because once per turn, if a monster you control is destroyed by battle or card effect, draw a card. All your Crystrons destroy themselves, so it's just card advantage city with them. If you get this first turn, it can really help you rack up the ability to do things. Oh, and we're playing the one Jar of Avarice, just to reset your extra deck, because you go through synchros like crazy in this deck. Any more than one, I find, becomes bricky, and even this one you might want to replace. If you're going to switch something out, it might be this. And that completes the main deck. All that's left really is the side deck. Crystronic Potential's pretty good. This is their field spell that actually comes with them. All Crystrons gain 300 attack and defense. And during the end phase, you can draw cards equal to the number of Crystron synchro monsters you synchro summon this turn, which could be pretty good if you get a certain combo off, like if you get Quandrax, then go into Amatrix, and then use both of them to summon Phoenix. You're drawing 3 cards in the end phase while banishing everything they have, which is really good. But other than that, I don't think it's really worth it as draw power. I'd much rather be able to banish cards from my opponent's side of the field. But if you're running against Magispectors or something you can't target with this, then maybe swap it out for Crystronic Potential. The rest of this is just sort of other options that you might want to consider. Pot of Acquisitiveness, of course, just good against any deck that banishes. But might be good to swap out for Jar of Avarice, depending on your taste, just because Citri banishes so many cards. Another Twin Twister if you're running into back row heavy things. Of course, we have the one-ofs. They can win games for you on their own. I didn't really run them just because I feel like it's kind of sacky. Like, if I win because of limiter removal, it's not that this deck is really good, it's that I happen to get limiter removal. But if you're playing this seriously, I'd probably include both of these. And then we just have a bunch of extra synchro monsters, just different options for things you might want to build. This extra deck in particular could feel pretty tight and constraining because you can make so many different leveled monsters and a lot of things you want to have just in case shit happens. But if you're going against something specific that you know has a good counter to it, like Clearwing Synchro Dragon, or Stardust Spark Dragon, or even Black Rose Dragon, might be good to swap out some of these for some of that. Like I said, if you're using Quandrax, you can make any of these, you're not limited to machines, and getting out this with a level 3 is really not all that difficult. Likewise, this is a machine. This can be pretty good if you want to make some burn damage, do some piercing damage. I just didn't have room for it. And Excel Synchron's pretty interesting. This is another Synchro Tuner. It's a level 5, which means you can make it a little bit more easily with Citri, and it also has the effect that during your opponent's main phase, you can Synchro Summon using this card. So it fits with the theme, and it might help you get to some of your bigger guys like Stardust Warrior even more. But if you're more Synchro heavy, if you know your way around Synchros a little bit better, this guy's definitely a must-have, especially because he's a machine monster, so you can build him even with the main deck. Oh, and finally, I guess I should mention Road Warrior. This guy's only really here because of Stardust Warrior. If this leaves the field, you could special summon one level 8 or lower Warrior Synchro monster from your extra deck. Originally, my deck made this a lot more. It's kind of fallen out of favor, but when it did, I had Road Warrior in here because it's got the highest attack of any of the Warrior Synchro monsters. And it can special summon a level 2 or lower Warrior or Machine type monster. And of course we have level 2 or lower machines out the wazoo. But anyway, I've rambled on long enough. Hopefully I was able to explain these. These are really complicated. It took me a long time to learn them, but I feel like I did them some justice. Next week I'll be looking at something I've done before, either some kind of raptors or some kind of dragons. Until then, good luck and have fun.